Thanks so much for coming, everyone. Ashley, would you like to kick us off?
For sure. So thanks everyone for joining us for the September quarterly meeting. Give me just a second to minimize the chat. So for those of us who might be joining us for the first time, the Chicagoland Healthcare Workforce Collaborative has a mission to unite employers across the healthcare industry, as well as supportive partners, community organizations, education partners, and the like, to provide an inclusive healthcare workforce ecosystem, make sure that access to healthcare careers are accessible, especially for those underserved communities, those who are unemployed and underemployed, and that we are working together to develop innovative responses to the changes happening in the healthcare labor market. We do this by focusing on a few strategic pillars, which include local and targeting hired efforts. So really important for us to focus on our local community and leverage the workforce and the talent that exists there. Bridging the gap between these individuals, our employer partners, and the education and training that makes it possible for people to enter the workforce. So working really closely with those organizations. And developing retention and career pathway system. So offering that education and training opportunity, not only through our education partners, but also through a more extensive partnership through the employers. CHWC is employer-led. So while we do welcome these other partners and they're quite necessary for all of our efforts to work, we are really led by the employers at the table. Right now, we have 12 employer partners and an additional 20 plus strategic partners are listed here. I'm not going to go ahead and read them off, but you are welcome to take a look here. And I believe we're going to be previewing the website. So might also find some of our partners there. And today we'll be going through quite a lot. So it's a pretty packed agenda. Our Youth Pathways Committee is going to provide some updates. The results for some of the info sessions that we've done for high school students. We will be talking about the Speakers Bureau campaign and the Hiring Health Workforce Systems Manager. We'll be providing a preview for that new website after that. Discussing a fair chance hiring cohort with testimony from Liana Brand from CARA and Bridget Forum from Advocate. And then we'll be discussing the CNA Training Hub. So Sasha Ontenko, our Careers Pathways Coordinator, will be providing an update on that. We'll end with some community announcements. So if there's anything you'd like to share with the group, we'll have space for that at the end of the meeting. And so I will pass that off now to Jana. Did I pronounce your name correctly? Feel free to correct me if I did not.
Thank you, Ashley. Hi, everyone. I'm Jana Udave, Community Support Specialist at Northwestern Medicine. My role here is to help, promote healthcare careers to students interested in STEM. Before I get started, I just wanted to share a quick story. This morning when I was on a run, I do long distance running. My coach had shared the importance of success and celebrating successes. And that can come in forms of milestones. So yesterday I had a meeting with the American Heart Association, and they shared that they're celebrating both a 20-year and a 40-year milestone. So just with sharing that little insight, I'd love to hear what successes you guys are facing right now. You guys can put this in the chat. So it can be a success for the week, for the year. One neat thing for Northwestern Medicine is for our Scholars Program, we expanded our program from offering to one high school for 13 years, and we expanded now to 3 high schools. So just quickly put in the chat, think of what the first thing that comes to mind for a success for your organization. We just want to celebrate those happy happenings. So I'll give you guys just a moment. And I'll continue on with our slide deck here. So CHWC Youth Pathways Committee is focused on exposing youth to career opportunities in healthcare. All the organizations that are listed to the left of the screen are involved in the Youth Pathways Committee. And one of the ways that we do this is by hosting virtual events to expose students to internships and other opportunities. I am loving these updates that are coming in on the chat. So as I'm talking, please continue to type these up. It's really important to celebrate these successes. Oh, and then we'll move on to the next slide. Thank you. So we hosted a info session on August 30th from 5 to 6 on Zoom. In this session that we hosted, we offered it to high school students, to parents, teachers, counselors, other admins at schools. And this was purposefully done by expanding to parents and teachers and counselors, because we understand that students that are in high school often need that extra push and that reminder to say, hey, this is a great opportunity, you know, seek this through, and give them that extra push and that reminder. So on our session that we hosted on August 30th, it was recorded on YouTube, and we will share that link in the chat. And this time around, we offered 3 students to win $100 Amazon gift cards, which was really neat. It was something that we tried, that April, you know, thank you so much for getting funding for doing that, to be able to provide those Amazon gift cards. So we think that was one of the reasons why we had such a great turnout. During this info session, it featured 2 school year internships, 1 mentorship program, 1 volunteer program, and also included an overview of Rapid Illinois' inventory of 100 high school programs. So you can kind of get an idea that students were exposed and kind of learned about a wide variety of opportunities that are available to them in Chicago. Now I'm going to talk about numbers. So we had 357 people registered for the session, and they received materials. So they received the PowerPoint decks, a copy of the recording, and we had 154 people attended. And of that number, about 83% were high school students. And just relating back to the successes, and I love that people are continuing to put in their intros and sharing their titles and which departments they're in and which organizations they're from in the chat. But just kind of relating back to the successes, 75% rated the event an excellent, so 5 out of 5. And I want to pause here and give some kudos and some claps that 88% of students said that they intended to apply to one of the featured programs. That's amazing. That's such a high number, so I'm very happy about that percentage here. And then we'll just move on to the next slide. Next, I'm just going to take a minute or so to talk about AHEC Speakers Bureau, which links professionals representing diverse health careers from nursing and medicine to public health and psychology, to career seekers to inform, motivate, and empower them to pursue attainable health career goals. I want to mention too, you know, tapping into this opportunity is completely free. And we also want to share too that this is an opportunity for all types of schools, CPS, Noble schools, suburban schools, to be able to tap into this opportunity to get healthcare speakers and people that are in healthcare to come and speak at your schools, so students can kind of envision themselves and hear from people firsthand. I see in the chat too, the most recent thing that was added. Thank you, April. She added the toolkit in the chat. So if you click on that link, it has amazing opportunities to help circulate our marketing materials throughout your organizations and networks. Within that toolkit, there's tons of verbiage to be able to copy and paste and send out an email, or to print out a flyer in high traffic areas in your organization. So really, April made it really easy for us to kind of share this out and get more speakers to get interested into speaking to high school students. I would just want to quickly talk about 2 goals that we have with the campaign. The first is to recruit speakers. So we would like to increase from 36 active speakers to 70 in September. We're kind of at a standstill with 45. However, with all of your help, we know that we can get closer to 70. So thank you guys so much for considering sharing this with your organizations. And we also want to increase the diversity of speakers too. So what specialties they're in, different age groups, different educational backgrounds as well, and how people got to those roles. And a second goal we have here too is to increase the speaking engagements. Again, like I mentioned, tapping into this opportunity is completely free. So we just want to make sure that schools are aware of this, and nonprofits are aware of this as well, that they can utilize this as a good opportunity to have speakers come and speak to your students. So some metrics we wanted to share: we hope to increase from 6 speaking opportunities or 6 speaking engagements, 24. It's ambitious. It's ambitious, but we need your guys' help to get there. And then I believe I'm handing it over to April next. Amazing.
Thank you
Thank
so
you, April.
much, Donna. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand or put those in the chat. If you'd like to get involved with Youth Pathways Committee, same thing. You can just email me about that as well. Thank you, Jana. I'm so glad you asked about successes. I was busy reading those in the chat and neglecting my slide forwarding duties, but that was really inspiring. One last update about the Youth Pathways Committee. We are hiring a full-time position at Health and Medicine Policy Research Group. For those who might be unaware, Health and Medicine is now going to be the sort of home of this Chicagoland Healthcare Workforce Collaborative. That's a shift we made when we got the Good Jobs Challenge grant and allows us to be closer to the Public Health Workforce Collaborative that is housed there. And so we are hiring a health workforce systems manager. That position is funded through Good Jobs Challenge. It will work with both our table and the Public Health Workforce Collaborative. It will support some of those Good Jobs Challenge training programs, and will also take over the Youth Pathways Committee and expand the work that we do with that group. So we are hiring for that now. I will drop that in the chat. I encourage you to share the post around. And now it's in the chat. And now the website. So for those of you who who've been around, you know that I've been talking about a new website for a while, and I was really hoping to have it live today and to walk you through the live site. We are almost there, but not quite. I think that we will make the switch from the old website to the new website on about Monday of next week. And then I'll send out a newsletter announcing that it's there. And I hope that you will go check it out and poke around. It's been a long time in the works, but we're almost there. But I did want to at least give you a little preview of what it's going to look like. So the new website is going to face two different audiences. First is you, healthcare employers and industry partners who are all trying to work together to provide workforce solutions. There will be one portal to have your resources and information regarding CHWC at your fingertips. But then the new part that the old website didn't really have is a section specifically for those we're trying to serve. So students and job seekers. Our old website, well, great, didn't have a lot of information facing those audiences. But our Youth Pathways Committee a couple of years ago decided that we needed to have a place where we could find internship, apprenticeship, mentorship opportunities all in one place for students. And so we've been housing that on our website. But I think there's just so much more opportunity to build out resources for that particular audience. And have our site be a place that you all as practitioners or teachers, administrators send students or send career seekers to look for opportunities. So there's going to be a second half of the site that faces that audience. So this gives you a little insight into the different pages. For employers and industry partners, there will be an events page. And so you'll be able to at any time go in and see what's the next CHWC event, when's the next quarterly, or when's the next learning event, and register for those. And you'll also be able to access all the past events in one place with their recordings and be able to download the slides and any other materials. There will be a speaking and mentoring page. So we just talked about our Speakers Bureau campaign. You'll be able to find the opportunity to join up for that Speakers Bureau campaign on that page, as well as other mentoring opportunities across our different systems. I know, for example, that the Rush Education and Career Hub has mentorship programs that they're currently seeking mentors for, if I'm not mistaken. And if anyone in Rush is here, let us know in the chat if you're still seeking mentors. But opportunities like that can be listed on that page. And anyone, if you have opportunity, if you are seeking speakers or mentors, let me know and I can include you there. And then finally, we'll have a resources page. So we know that there's a ton of organizations that are similar to CHWC. There are other collaboratives that are complementary, but a little bit different. There are national organizations that offer a lot of workforce development best practices and tools, as well as those specifically in healthcare. So this is intended to be a space that brings all of those together in one place. So you can go and look for other organizations and collaboratives, publications, toolkits, as well as archived CHWC materials. Then shifting down to the for students and job seekers portion, there will be a simple page, jobs in healthcare, that simply links to each of the job boards for the participating CHWC employers, all in one place. I designed it to house that pathways directory that I just mentioned. We're now in the process of switching that to the UIC Rapid Illinois directory, and I put that in the chat because that team has just done such a great job of bringing together all of the programs that are available for middle school, high school, college students to find summer internships, apprenticeships, mentoring programs. They have over 100 high school programs, and our directory only had about 30. So no reason to recreate the wheel. We're working with the Rapid Illinois team right now to embed their search in our website. So that's what the Pathways directory will be replaced with this week. And then finally, exploring careers. Students and job seekers might be coming to our website because they don't know what jobs are available in healthcare. And I know that we all, part of our mission is to expose everyone to the fact that there's more than just doctors and nurses, right? There are so many other occupations and quality careers. So right now that will just link to some other external sites and external tools that are designed to help with career exploration in healthcare. This entire website is really intended to bring all these great existing tools together in one place so you can all access them easily. But I do see that as an opportunity for future original content coming out of CHWC. Then finally at the bottom, there's a contact page. It'll be really easy for someone to sign up for our newsletter. And the about page will include our mission, all of our partner logos, and links to your websites. It has a list of our steering committee with pictures, and then some blurbs about our current projects. And before we move on, I just wanted to give you a little preview of what the resources page will look like. There will be a search bar, so you can literally search for what you're looking for. And there will also be some toggles. And I'm working on some of the subcategories with our web designer here right now. But there'll be a whole section of literally organizations and collaboratives where there'll be a blurb about them and it will link to their website. Then you'll actually be able to download specific publications and toolkits that are mostly from external partners, although some will come from CHWC, and then CHWC archived materials and recordings. So this gives you a little idea. If you go to our last quarterly meeting, say you're preparing for this quarterly meeting, like what did we talk about at the last one? I can't remember. You can go find the YouTube recording and download the slides easily. Any questions about the website or about Youth Pathways committee work? Feel free to put them in the chat. And I'm really excited to send out that newsletter saying that it's live, so look out for that next week. And then I have one more announcement before I pass it on to Kara and Advocate. We have a great webinar coming up. Many of you know about our career pathway mapping project. We launched this project because we were wondering, how often are frontline healthcare workers advancing through career pathways? And so we partnered with the Workforce and Organizational Research Center with Helen Frank Miller at the helm to do a research project. And we have 4 of our CHWC employer partners have engaged in that from beginning to end. It included data dive, interviews with supervisors and HR folk, and then a very large survey with frontline employees themselves. It focuses on nursing assistants, medical assistants, and patient service representatives. And so the title of the report right now is What Opportunities? Understanding Committed Frontline Healthcare Workers' Perceptions of Career Advancement Opportunities. So we are going to roll out that report in October, and we'll have a webinar on October 17th from 12 to 1 p.m. So I'm going to drop that link in the chat right now. And when the new website is up next week, and you're like, when was that event? There was a cool thing. Just go to our website. It'll be there. And I'm excited for that. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. And as long as we don't have any questions, I'm happy to save a few minutes there without an actual live website run through to pass it off to Liana Braun from Cara Collective and Bridget Borum from Advocate Aurora to talk about the Fair Chance hiring cohort. And I know that Liana has come to talk about the Fair Chance hiring cohort in the past. And CHWC, prior to COVID, back in 2019, those of you who may remember, had been partnering with the Safer Foundation to do some work around this subject area. And it's something near and dear to my heart. And so I'm really excited about this. And to kick us off, Liana, should I kick off the poll or were you planning on it?
Not yet, almost, April. We'll get to that shortly.
I'll pass it off to you first.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Liana Braun from Cara Collective. Go ahead, Liana.
Thank you, April. And it's so wonderful to see you all here this morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Liana. I work at Cara Collective. So to get us started, let me actually just preview some of where we're headed. And share my screen with you all so you can follow along with me. So we want to talk about some of our efforts in Fair Chance hiring. So we're going to start with what the heck is Fair Chance hiring? What do we mean by that? But we'll spend more of our time this time actually talking about what this actually looks like in a healthcare setting, and then previewing what we hope will be a resource for anyone interested to deepen their work here. So let's just start with what is Fair Chance hiring? What does that mean? There's a lot of language out there. So I actually just want to open it up to the group to see if anyone would kind of venture to define what this might mean to them, or when they've heard it, what they think of. So I'm going to open it up, and I would love to hear from somebody live if you want to unmute yourself. Okay, so I'm going to give you door number 2 option because we're here to learn more about Fair Chance. Do this. Literally, I want to see with your camera. If you're like, I think I might know what it means, go ahead and give me one of these with your hand. Does anyone feel like maybe they think they know what it is? Oh, Marcos. Maybe this is like an audience plan. Let me turn it over to my peer Marcos here.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Fair Chance hiring is oftentimes maybe thought of as second chance hiring, but it's giving opportunities for folks who have been impacted by the justice system in some way. And I think we switched from second chance to fair chance because not everyone was given a first chance really in the first place. So we want to make sure that everyone has a fair chance of employment.
Oh, thank you so much, Marcos. Anyone is not aware of Marcos, he's over at the Corporate Coalition, leading some of their resiliency efforts, and it has been a huge partner in this work with us. So exactly as Marcos said, fair chance hiring, who are we talking about? We're really looking at that 1 in 3 U.S. adults that have some kind of involvement with the criminal justice system. That's a big number. And even more specifically, when we talk about fair chance hiring, we're talking about how do we give these individuals the opportunity to be fairly assessed for a role that they are actually qualified to fill. So really that's what we mean by fair chance hiring. And I think another equally important part of this work is recognizing that this is a huge untapped talent. Remember that 1 in 3 U.S. adults. So in talking about fair chance hiring, I want to talk a little bit about kind of one click deeper, maybe what this is not, or maybe further define this. So April, now let's launch a poll. We are curious to hear You know, when you think fair chance hiring, you think about individuals with a background that's really closely tied to an organization's background check. So you can see the poll. Want to hear from you all. How well do you feel like you have a sense of your organization's background check? So I give you a moment to respond.
Sometimes I forget. Can everyone see the results right now, or do I have to end it? How do I let everyone see them as it's going?
You have to end it and then it'll say show results.
No, I wish you could show them before you end it.
Yes, that would be nice. So you can see it, you can have excitement like we are on the back end,
Yeah.
seeing these responses come in.
Well, we have about 76% have participated. So I think I'm going to end and show.
Yeah, so this is actually really exciting to see that many people seem to have some familiarity of their policies, right? Because again, this is such an important part of removing or reducing some barriers around getting fair chance talent hired into your organization. But I also see maybe just a handful of folks actually feel like they're really well versed in their policy. So thanks for sharing a little bit about your current state. But one thing I do want to emphasize is that the background check piece is a really important part of advancing this effort. But if you walk away with one thing, is an effective fair chance hiring program or initiative is not just about making those shifts to the background check process. There's other barriers when it comes to hiring. There's other things that an organization needs to do to make sure that fair chance talent can actually be successful once they're in the organization. So that's again why we've started to build some resources around this work, and to help us get a clue of what does this actually mean? What does this look like in action? I'm going to stop my screen so we can see actually. So you can let me properly introduce our partner here, Bridget Moore, who's leading talent acquisition and diversity inclusion efforts at Advocate Aurora. I'm going to invite Bridget to speak a little bit about Advocate's experience and also share a little bit about her experience in the cohort. So now I'm going to stop sharing. And Bridget, it's so great to see you and to help us bring this idea of fair chance hiring to life. So Bridget, welcome. Excited to see you here.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. This is one of my passions, so I'm always happy to talk about it. And if I go a little long, just give me a red flag or something.
Oh, you know, that's the beauty and the challenge of this work. There's so much great things to talk about. But why don't we just get started? If you can tell us a little bit about what is Advocate Aurora doing in this space? What is the Returning Citizens program? And maybe share a little bit about where it started and how it's been growing over time. Love to hear from you about that.
Yeah, so I think your definition of fair chance hiring employer has fit Advocate Aurora for many years. We have discovered that through the criminal background check process, we often hire people who may have something on their criminal background. But with the Returning Citizens program, we set an intention to find candidates who were justice involved. And so in August of 2020, we launched our program as a pilot to hire 7 candidates. And we actually hired more than 20 in that first year. And so we have continued this as a practice within our organization. And we have gone on to hire more than 40 returning citizens in the Chicagoland area. They have worked at our sites in South Sub, Trinity, Illinois Masonic, Christ Medical Center, and Good Sam. And so we've reached quite a few of the sites in the Chicagoland area. And then over time, we replicated this model in the Milwaukee area at 3 of our sites. And we're currently scaling across our footprint so that we can continue to grow. And it's efforts like this, right? People hear about this within the organization. And I had a hospital president reach out and say, hey, you're doing that down there. I want to do it at Condell, right? And so it's continuing to grow across our footprint.
Bridget, and it's so exciting to hear from 2020. It started as a small pilot. Oftentimes we talk about it's helpful to start small. You can kind of figure out, navigate some challenges that come up. But now you're at 40, which is incredible. I'm curious if you can share maybe some of the things that helped it to be successful, or maybe some of the changes you made at Advocate to make that possible.
Yeah, so I think when we were establishing the program, we did take a quiet launch approach. And so we spent time training our HR business partners, training and preparing, hiring leaders for working with all talent. We have not yet shared the status of a candidate. And so our hiring leaders are not aware of who is hired through returning citizens versus any other talent source. They participate in our competitive process. They're not placed in jobs. And so we do train our HR business partners, we train our hiring leaders, and then we work with our community partner. So our community partner, I already saw their name in the chat, is Kira Collective. And they've partnered with us since the beginning to provide talent for the organization. And they've been a tremendous help for us. And then we took a look at, what was our talent strategy? Why did we want to invest here? And recognize that this would make us a good corporate citizen. We would be supporting the communities where we work, and where we have operational footprint. Via COVID, we definitely would address our talent shortages that folks are feeling everywhere, right? And then some of the data relative to this population helped us to decide that this is how we wanted to move forward. Recognizing that 1 in 3 means, there's someone very close to all of us who has something on their criminal background. So we wanted to impact those numbers. Did I answer the question, Liana?
100%, Bridget.
And for quite a while.
Oh, it's great stuff. Keep it coming, Bridget. We actually have a question in the chat. Okay. Which is often the question we get from companies that are trying to figure out where to start is, what kinds of positions do you even target? So can you talk a little bit about the roles that individuals with backgrounds have, or individuals from the Returning Citizens Program? Where are they getting opportunities?
And I think everyone takes their own particular approach based on their organization. We took the approach that we identified some roles that would probably be easier to achieve, without a lot of training and licensing and certifications. And so those roles land mostly in our environmental services, food services, sterile processing, patient service representative, patient transportation. However, a candidate is not limited to the targeted roles. If they have a background that's suited for another role within the organization, they are certainly open to apply and interview for those roles. I think we participated previously on a call with a gentleman who had been to law school, right? And so he would definitely be eligible for paralegal roles or maybe attorney roles. And we would not prohibit him from applying and going through that process as well.
Thanks, Bridget. And I think that's such a great reminder, right? We talk about 1 in 3 Americans may have something on their background, or 1 in 3 adults. So that means people have a variety of experiences, a variety of education and work. So I love that Advocate has taken this flexible approach to really make sure the talent is going into the roles that really make sense. Another question in the chat, which is, if you could share, you provided some training for HR and hiring managers as individuals are coming in. So can you share a little bit more detail about what that training might look like?
Yeah, so the training is more to acclimate them to the fact that we are hiring talent that may have a criminal background. It's also to help address bias when we are working with different populations. Although we don't share that someone has a criminal background, that may come up as part of their interview process or their onboarding process. And so we wanted our staff to be prepared and able to demonstrate our values of compassion when working with that talent, and also to demonstrate integrity and empathy when working with the population. And so it's more about building awareness to who a returning citizen is, or what Fair Chance Hiring is, and then addressing those bias. And sir, I would say reinforcing our values and commitment.
And I think there's one more question in the chat that is relevant to what you're just talking about. So I think we have time for this last question, which is, if you can share a little bit more about, you mentioned your background policy and how it supports leadership, not knowing individual status. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Correct. So we partner with Kara to identify talent. And the talent that comes from Kara may or may not have a criminal background. And so when our community partner is interfacing with them, she'll learn, but we do not share that information beyond our returning citizens team, so that the experience of the candidate is the same as everyone else. And so that's what I mean by we don't share their status with hiring leaders. As a practice, as a healthcare provider, we are required to investigate the criminal background of every candidate, right? And so there's no change there. What we did when we implemented this program is that we would not reference any criminal background during your interview. We were once asking, is there anything on your criminal background that would prevent you from working in healthcare? We no longer do that. We only check the criminal background. And we also are required to check with the Illinois Department of Public Health, the IDPH, and care worker legislation to ensure that there is not a violation there that prohibits us as a healthcare organization from hiring that individual.
Thank you, Bridget. And I will make another plug for Advocate Aurora Health. Some of you here might actually have seen a presentation that Advocate Aurora gave on their team members coaching program. So another innovation in the ad. So there was this new team to support individuals like this Fair Chance talent we're talking about. And I think that also has gone a long way, I would imagine, to providing another layer of support, another resource beyond an individual's manager to make sure that they get what they need to be successful on the job. So I'm going to ask, this will be my final question for you, Bridget. Coming from me, I want to share a little bit about this Fair Chance Hiring, a cohort resource for anyone else interested in pursuing this journey with their organization. You've been a part of it. So I wonder if you could just share what was valuable about that experience and, why someone might want to join.
And so we joined after our program had been active for about a year. And it felt like maybe we're a little further along the process than others. But it's been valuable for our organization as well. I participate as well as our sourcing leader, our criminal background check leader, and our community partner sourcer. And so that we're all aware of what's happening with the cohort. We are able to network with other organizations within healthcare, outside of healthcare. And so there is a tremendous sharing of best practices that happens there. We're able to use what we learn in the cohort to enhance or make modifications to our process. I mean, we only know our program, right? And so being able to see into other world-class organizations, how they approach this similar work helps to inform the things that are happening with our program as well. That's what's been most valuable for us as an organization.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Bridget. I really appreciate you sharing all the different things that Bridget, Bridget, and many of your colleagues at Advocate are doing in this space that are very innovative and I think been very effective to bring in this new talent pool. Just to end this part of our program, look like for anyone that is interested in getting some resources, getting support here. So this Fair Chance cohort, it's a partnership between my organization, CARA Collective, or CARA Plus is the team I sit on, the Corporate Coalition of Chicago. My partner Marcos is here as well representing, and the Chicagoland Workforce Funder Alliance. And we brought this group together, again, recognizing this is an incredible talent pool and wanting to provide some resources and some space for companies that want to develop their own programs here. And exactly as Bridget mentioned, there's kind of three important pieces of this experience that we think are valuable. Number one, what are the very specific tactical steps an organization needs to take? What are those best practices around reaching or retaining justice impacted individuals? You heard Bridget talking about some best practices, like how do you maintain someone's privacy? When do you do the background check? How do you partner with community organizations? Those are exactly the kinds of topics we dig into. Secondly, another part of the cohort experience is it's a 9-month journey. So we're not only counting on the companies to learn, but actually start testing things to make some progress, whatever that means for that organization. Some of the companies might be very advanced, like Advocate, and others might be earlier on. And then to that point, the last piece, exactly as Bridget named, just it's a chance to connect with peers that are also figuring out how to address some of these challenges and these changes. Just to give you, again, a preview of some of the work we do in this cohort. Again, we launched this year with a group of 8 employers. They really did represent a range of industries, sizes, stages in their Fair Chance journey. And I think what, again, is important here is that, healthcare, we know that there can be additional regulations, there can be additional considerations. So we really take this approach to not only touch on those big picture topics that all organizations should be thinking of, but spending time with each company to figure out, what are their unique barriers to making some changes, as well as what opportunities they have. So we spend a lot of time with companies figuring out what are the specific roles they might target, looking at things like their background check processes, as well as maybe, some of the supports that they might provide to these individuals. And then lastly, where I'll end again is this, 2024 cohort. We are currently inviting companies to join us in this journey. It really includes these 3 fundamental parts of how can you build your capacity of your team and your organization? How do you make sure you do have the right infrastructure support so that Fair Chance talent can be successful? And then finally, how do you make sure you can move to action? Who do you need to partner with? What talent pipelines? And how can you actually start your own Fair Chance program or initiative? And what does that look like to you? So if any of this sounds interesting, if you want to learn more about this work or you're looking for resources, please do reach out to me. I know this group is doing so many exciting things. So if Fair Chance hiring could be part of your strategies and you want some resources, please do reach out. Thank you. And then April, I believe I'm turning it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Liana. Thank you, Bridget, for sharing your experience. I'm so happy that you're doing another cohort. This is very exciting. Of course, I hope that every employer who's on this call will join. That would be wonderful. But I also know that you know that can be a big ask and a lot of a big commitment. And I'm always curious, if there are other things that CHWC or CARA or Corporate Coalition, the Resiliency Network, if any of our partners can help you in other ways. So I'm putting this last question in the chat as we move on from this portion of the event is, what support do you feel like you need? What information do you need that you don't have access to in order to gain more interest internally to make some of these changes, or to join a cohort like the Fair Chance Hiring cohort? Who needs to hear this information? Who needs to be involved? And if there are any specific suggestions or ideas for things that CHWC, CARA, Corporate Coalition, anyone can do to support you, I want to know, and I want to make them happen. So just leaving that in the chat for anyone who has any thoughts on that. Any final burning questions before we move on? We always have a packed agenda at these quarterlies, as you know. Great, excellent. Okay, so I am going to pass it over to Sasha Ongtenko, who is our wonderful Career Pathways coordinator, to talk about our CNA training hub that we're doing with Good Jobs Challenge funding. And a fair warning to everyone, we are going to be doing some breakout rooms pretty soon, so get ready to talk. Take it away, Sasha. You're muted.
Yeah, trying to unmute. Hi, everyone. As I'm sharing my screen, let's just make sure, hopefully, I don't lose my audio. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, April. Again, for those who don't know me, I'm Sasha Ongtenko, and I am the pathway coordinator for the Chicagoland Healthcare Workforce Collaborative. I was brought on to truly support this big first initiative, the Good Jobs Challenge. And so many of you on this call I believe are familiar. For those who are not familiar with the Good Jobs Challenge, is a pool of funding that was awarded to the Chicagoland region with the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership serving as our system lead. 4 sectors are getting funded, just under $20 million in total. And then the healthcare sector, the Chicagoland Healthcare Workforce Collaborative, hospital systems, and then the Public Health Workforce Collaborative. So a lot of our community health smaller hospitals and community health organizations are sharing $4 million in funding to really bolster job generation that's tied to sort of good job quality and good jobs and increasing job quality, increasing pathway and career advancement for job seekers in communities who've been historically sidelined. And so we're really excited to be working on this. And I just want to give a quick update on where we're at as we are moving forward with our different hospitals and the proposal that we've submitted so far for what we plan to do with this funding, with at least the training dollars that we are being awarded. And so the proposal that we've submitted that we wanted the collaborative to be aware of, so just updates again on what we're working on, is we'll be funding or sustaining 5 to 6 existing nursing assistant training and pathway advancement programs, all of who are represented within the Chicagoland Healthcare Workforce Collaborative. We are within those nursing assistant training and pathway advancement programs will be impacting roughly 200 new and incumbent workers, either through being exposed to nursing assistant, the role and the skills to become certified, and access a healthcare career path at these hospital systems, as well as upskilling incumbent workers into CNA or patient-facing roles, or incumbent CNAs to advance along their healthcare career path. And really our focus is being to open up and really allowing for increased economic mobility and career mobility with this funding. We'll also be, and this is actually just, it's so appropriate because coming off of what we've just learned about the Fair Chance hiring cohort, we'll be with the participating hospital systems whose nursing assistant programs will be funded in this first round in year one. We'll be coming together for a monthly community of practice, very similarly, just the power of collective learning, disseminating information and lessons and takeaways, problem solving together, and just really being able to exchange and intentionally collaborate in service of improving the healthcare sector, specifically with ensuring that individuals who start off a career in, or who come into training as a nursing assistant, who've been told that this is a foot in the door to get you into a healthcare career path towards living wage jobs, self-sufficiency for you and your families, that is something that we can deliver on, and learning what gets in the way. And then from there, you'll see also in the proposal is working and elevating employee voice by working with program alumni to inform and improve program processes, the experience for certified nursing assistants from recruitment all the way through advancing once they've been working. And therein, we really wanted to build something together concrete. So more than just coming together monthly to talk and exchange lessons and kind of understand our outcomes and what's working and what's not. Also really coming together to, as a system, look at, and this is what we're going to talk about today shortly, is just career pathways in healthcare, starting with these entry-level patient-facing roles, and we'll focus on certified nursing assistant, just because at our last quarterly meeting, we were really looking at those types of roles and what really was limiting advancement. And so in that, we are hoping to collect information informed by this group, as well as the monthly community of practice employers who are participating, and guest speakers and stakeholders, to just continuously gather information and understand really what would be most valuable for the job seeker who's looking to really go beyond that first role of certified nursing assistant and other future entry-level roles, to understand really what out there, what do I need to get there, what barriers might be in my way, what supports are out there to reduce or eliminate those barriers, and really elevating again the value of the voice of our participants, of those benefiting from these programs, directly into the design of interventions and make it better. And ideally pairing such a tool, a healthcare career pathway navigation tool, with an actual career pathway navigator for the region. So just some things that we're really looking forward to. To kind of level set before we get into our breakout discussion, last quarterly meeting was in person, and you all, those who were able to attend, really dug into the definition of good jobs and what really defines job quality, and then moved into an exercise where and across 4 different phases of the job seeker experience, that being discovery and recruitment, then going into your program training and skills development, acquiring the job, getting hired, and the onboarding process, and then actual performance on the job, support on the job, and advancing within the employer, within the organization, or within one's career. Those 4 phases have a set of activities, and have also it's unique sets of barriers and challenges that we've either experienced ourselves working with participants or working with trainees or working with new hires, and really wanting to understand the different challenges and obstacles. So some themes, the themes of the 4 different buckets I've highlighted here, and just not to read through all of them, but you'll see that I think the real common denominator for a lot of challenges and obstacles is just lack of access to knowledge and lack of access to resources. And you don't know what you don't know, right? And I imagine in the fair chance hiring cohort, that's just a continuous discovery of what we assume our job seekers know, or what job seekers assume we know, and on the hiring side, and just really seeking to improve communication and awareness. And so by being able to create that awareness, and in this case today, really understanding what are options, what are those next jobs after a certified nursing assistant role. We've seen a lot of individuals, I think, either in our experience, there's shortages, right, in those roles and high turnover, and even attracting individuals into these roles now. And so what is it that we can get at more to better understand and improve that experience overall? So you'll see some of these themes here in terms of prohibitive factors with training and access to transportation and wraparound supports, not being able to meet skills requirements, needing access to bridge programs, but knowing, where those resources are, needing mentors. Once someone has actually gone through training, now it's time to start the job and get hired, but are they still interested in the role after all they've learned from training? Did they have the support they needed throughout their program experience? There are still wage issues. There are benefits cliffs. For those who don't know, but the benefits cliffs, you get a certain wage, and then if it's above a certain threshold, you lose a housing voucher, you lose access to childcare subsidies, and it really makes your life a lot more difficult. So having awareness of all of these things are really important to put, we believe, on the table and discuss more candidly. And so what we want to then, we'll send this deck after so folks can take and have that for further review. But what we want to take the time to introduce and really invite everyone in the room today, everyone in our virtual room today, is to really focus on career path options. And as I mentioned before, when talking about the highlights in our proposal for our nursing assistant hub, we really were looking and wanting to identify and bring in the insights and information from this group, as well as the participating hospital systems, as to the different positions that are out there beyond the CNA role. What comes after? And that's not just limited to a nursing pathway, right? Because a lot of individuals, I think, you gain skills, and those skills are transferable. And thinking that you are pigeonholed into just one direction, and knowing that there's a whole, career, like lattices and ladders within a hospital system. And I love how Bridget mentioned before, like these world-class healthcare systems, these world-class employers have options and have opportunities, but do we even know what we have at our disposal within our own hospital systems, and then as a sector? Three sorts of a way to kind of frame and think about the types of positions, and we think the community colleges through the Northern Illinois Workforce Collaborative. So they're supporting also this project in on the training and career navigation side. But there are 3 different career path categories: diagnostic, therapeutic, and administrative. I thought that was a really great start to organize different types of roles. And so I'm going to just see if I can open this up really quick and show the group. What we have here are just different categories. And when you go into your breakout rooms in a bit, you'll have a breakout room facilitator who can pull this up, but I'll also put this in the chat so everyone can just view it on their own screen. They're just different categories, and we have a starter list that's that we've built already with the group of employers when we met last month. But you'll see different types of just information that we believe at this point, a job seeker, if you're putting on that hat, if you were yourself coming through and learning about healthcare careers and learned about the certified nursing assistant opportunity, because there are several of those programs offered through many of the hospital systems, and wanting to know whether or not to pursue that, but informing that choice is also, well, what will that set me up to do? What is beyond? We're hoping that a tool like this will help overcome those barriers and challenges of the lower wages or the physical challenges and kind of the emotional labor of the job. Those are also important skills to build up, but knowing that I can transfer those skills into next step positions. But what are those positions, and what do I need to get there? What are those requirements? So there are some categories that are listed here, but I would now want to invite folks in the breakouts. We're going to, let me just switch back to my other screen. We'd like to invite folks to consider these questions and discuss in your group. So just to start off, the tool that I'm going to put in the chat in a second, does something similar already exist within your organization? Or are there others that you're aware of that maybe you've seen at other organizations or heard about? If so, especially if you've had a chance to kind of explore them more deeply, share them with the group. If there's something, if you know what's effective or ineffective about them, we would love to know, because all of that information can help inform what we do with this collective tool that we want to have at the disposal for job seekers within our region for healthcare career. And then next, what valuable information might still be missing from the sheet, the document that you'll look at in a bit? What might be missing, and what would support and drive a job seeker's advancement? And that could be like really take on from the lens of where you sit in the workforce system, because not everyone here obviously works at a hospital. So if you know that there are certain key wraparound supports, if you've seen certain barriers, and we'll also make available some of those themes from the challenges and obstacles from the different phases of the job seeker experience to help add to the discussion. And then finally, if you get to this question, if this were to evolve into a true career navigation resource that someone, any one of our job seekers with whom we work, participants in our programs, if they were to use it, what could this tool look like? What would make it equitably user friendly? And where our hope is to kind of crowdsource some ideas there to help inform this tool. So it's exciting to think that we could build something together. I'm going to now invite folks to, thank you. I see Dina already, so there's some contributions in the chat, but in the main chat here, feel free everyone to click on that. That'll give you access to the spreadsheet that I just had on the screen. And I will now invite folks. We're going to go into breakouts. I think we'll do 4 breakout rooms. And let's see here. Let me just do this. I'm going to everyone's just going to see folks. You're going to go into each of your rooms. It'll be 8 to 9 folks per room. So here we go.
Do you want me to launch them, Sasha?
I think they did. Did they go? I thought they did.
Oh, I'm not seeing one for me. Oh, never mind.
Did I not? Maybe.
You'll be in.
Yeah, let me be the, Anna's in 4. If you want to jump into 3,
Okay.
where's it?
Hey, everyone.
Hi.
Great group. I know I'm
Hi.
here. I know Tasha is new to Lurie. Good to see you, Tasha. We don't have a lot of time to do intros, so I'm going to skip over that.
If
And
I'm unmuted, is my background noise too loud?
I can't hear it.
Okay. Can't hear any. Okay.
So first, any questions about like the tool, what we're doing right now, just generally?
We're answering those questions.
Well, so the first question is, do any like similar career navigation tools already exist, or are you aware of them? Here, I'll put it in our chat. I think, yeah. So this is our first question: is are there any tools that, you know, have some of that information about, you know, next step roles for CNAs, wages, training that's provided, and, you know, that we could pull on, or perhaps is already built and we don't need to do anything? Does anybody know of anything like that?
I thought Advocate had done something like that already a couple of years ago with their JP Morgan, with the grant that they got around workforce. I thought I don't know if they mapped CNAs, but I know they did some mapping. I know it was for a number of sort of frontline roles, but that might be a good starting point. But I know Rush otherwise does not have this. We want this.
And then I had put in the chat, city colleges also have, like, if you choose different advanced certificate, basic certificate, associates, like on that site, you can kind of see what are the career opportunities within that stack of a credential, and then how do you get to the next one and that type of thing. Of course, I can't pull it up right now, but I could send the link if that's helpful for to find it.
Yeah, I would love to see that, because I feel like when I've looked at city colleges, there's like a different page for each program, and it might say, you know, here's the logical next step, but like all in one place, I haven't found that. Perhaps it does exist. Mary, does Midwestern career colleges do anything like that?
You know, not really. And I agree with you. I haven't seen anything comprehensive. I also believe Rakia is right that Advocate has something, but it's internal to Advocate employees, their workforce development team. You know, Michelle Smith, they do something. Now, how active it is, because I think it got a little bit dormant with COVID. But I think they've restarted those efforts probably again.
That's great to know. I will ask Advocate about that, and perhaps they have some insights on what's working and what's not. Anything else that we know about before we move on to the second question, which is what valuable information is still missing that would support and drive a job seeker's advancement? So I don't know if you opened the spreadsheet that we're working on, which is pretty bare at the moment and has just been started. Here, I'm sharing my screen. So we have the 3 categories of therapeutic, administrative, and diagnostic, the job title, average wage. This is from ONET. So it's not necessarily specific to hospitals, to CHWC hospitals, to Chicagoland hospitals in particular. Education and experience needed, number of years and types of previous experience. So this kind of similar hospital demand, resources to meet educational require. I'm not sure about that.
So I have one thing
Mhm.
that I think could be helpful. I don't know if it's on this sheet or not, but like if you go back over to where you have job,
Mhm.
so like if you go up, do you have did I see CNA? So like you have CNA in row 2, but with your CNA certificate or certification, it's actually a BNA certificate and a CNA certification. But then the job could be PCT, could be NSO, could be a variety of different job titles depending on the hospital system or nursing home. And so kind of like outlining somehow like what are the actual job titles that a job seeker is going to see when they're looking for this, I think it's going to be helpful because even what we found is like upon obtaining the certification from the state, like it's even confusing then what do I actually apply to? Because like UCMC calls it NSA, Western calls it PCT. So kind of breaking that out a little bit too, and I think would be helpful to the field and then ultimately the job seeker.
That's a really good point, Dina. So I have, including the actual job titles that are out there.
Right.
Were you also saying it would be useful to distinguish between the credential and the certification? Is that?
I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
industry recognized credentials are the license, certificate, certification, and associate. And so here you have CNA certificate, but oftentimes, I mean, that gets a little confusing. Like at Malcolm X, it's a BNA certificate and then a CNA certification. So like distinguishing between those industry recognized credentials is also important. And then like here for pharmacy technician, like, so in terms of possible next steps, a lot of times that really depends also on the employer. So pharmacy technician at Walgreens could be farm tech, pharmacy operations manager, retail store manager, because you can't be a retail store manager without your farm tech license and then your farm tech certification. Now, farm tech at UCMC career architecture looks very different because you're not going to be a retail store manager with a farm tech certification at UCMC. So those types of things, like kind of mapping out that career architecture by employer sector, even maybe, and then attaching the industry recognized credentials to the job titles in some way. I mean, it's going to get real messy and complicated, but there might be some easy way to digest it all. I don't know what it is.
All great points. Anyone can, add more thoughts to that. And also, I mean, that leads us to the third question, if anyone wants to speak on that as well, is we don't want to just create a Google sheet and share that with a bunch of people. This is the worksheet, what does it look like at the end of the day? Like what would make it accessible, user-friendly? Any thoughts on that?
I think we've done this for, I've seen this in a couple of different spaces. I think you're going to need like a high level, I'm almost calling it flyer style, something that can be shared easily as part of I'm saying a handout or a packet. So it might be high level, but then there's the hyperlinks, if you will, that somebody could navigate this obviously online that will possibly give you more detail and all of that. Because you obviously won't be able to put all of that detail in the flyer, but I do think you're going to need sort of both. you know, like the online version, if you will, and that download that gives you that macro high level of, you know, these categories to, you know, examples. You may not list all of these jobs, but there are sometimes some ways that you can list, you know, a fair number of jobs as a possibility, you know, with probably salary ranges and experience needed. Oh, you know who else has stuff like this or who might share? Look, hopefully they wouldn't charge, but like Jobs for the Future. I'm just thinking like I've been in other community of practices and seen in different states where they have, you know, where they've been able to collect from different groups, different versions of these things where they've mapped out multiple, you know, careers along a track similar to this. So that would be a good place to go. But I think you'll need both because we find sometimes people can, you know, like, yes, they want to be able, you can scan and go to something and look at it. But people, when you're sitting, if they come to something, or you're just trying to help multiple people, help somebody, a village, if you will, help support somebody along this, they might need the piece of paper in hand that has the high level information too.
Yeah, that's a good point. That, you know, part of me thinks like, oh, we need some sort of, you know, website that, you know, takes them on a journey, and that would be a
Yeah.
lot to build. Sometimes simpler is a lot better. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Hey, Rose, the intended audience, the job seeker.
The job seeker and the incumbent CNA.
At the college, one of the things we've been doing is a day in the life video series, where somebody will speak about, you know, how they got to that point, what credentials they had, and why they did what they did. I think that this is a culture that loves video. So if there's a way to, you know, incorporate something where, you know, it's not just text, where you can, you know, have somebody, even if, you know, though it can't be interactive, our sessions are live, but then they're also recorded so that people can, and I can share those with you. But I think that that's been very helpful for the college in having that actual clinician give testimony to what it is they're doing and, you know, what the job is like.
Yeah, that's a great point. I feel like in an ideal world, we build this tool, and then we also, you know, within these CNA training programs, you know, have panels or little job spotlights, you know, on each training day or one a week, or interviews, things like that to accompany it. I think that's really important. Good point. I think we're gonna go back. Just texting Sasha. Any other thoughts?
I would just say that one of the things our students have a disconnect with is the importance of certifications. They're so anxious to get out of their programs that they sometimes will skip over that certification. And that's a short-term strategy, clearly. And the further away you get from your education, the harder it is to go back and take and pass those certifications. So if there's a way to not just list what the certifications are, but you know, what the gain is by being certified in some of these different areas, because you can you know, get your, you know, through your BNA program and not, you know, take different certifications and still get employment, and it's not always the best path.
I think a lot of people skip the certification aspect because they're not sure what to anticipate or how challenging it is or how long it takes or if there's a fee associated with the certification.
That's fair, Tasha. And also there's a cost associated with
Yeah.
it. And if you're not yet employed, And yet you have to pay a couple of $100s to, sit for a particular test. That might be where the wraparound services come in,
Mhm.
is support for that certification. We tell people that they ought to get it, but how do they get it?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm going to. I am going to launch the close of the breakout rooms so we can go back. This has been a great discussion. Very, very helpful.
Yes. Thanks, April,
Thank
for
you.
facilitating.
Of course. Thank you, Tasha. I'm so glad to see you. See you back in the room.
Recorded.
Sasha, I hope that's okay. I want
I
to.
saw that. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Yeah, we may not, I imagine that not all the questions, we may not have gotten to all the questions, but I hope that there was some generative discussion, and at least, at the very least, just exposure to the idea, and kind of at least looking at something tangible that's starting to consolidate and gather and consolidate information. And the hope is to coordinate all that information in a usable way that, again, job seekers who are interested in healthcare careers specific to our region and the resources in our region would have that available. So being able to do so in a way that's informed by this entire, by really like the voices of our stakeholders is what I think makes it super compelling. Just really to kind of thank you to Anna and thank you to Ashley for helping out with facilitating breakouts. I'm curious of actually the second question, of any takeaways or any highlights of discussion around what might have been missing from the tool that we can account for and want to reflect in some way. Anything can come up in a discussion.
So we had a couple of comments around mentoring and the importance of high touch mentoring, that whether it's done in a group setting or one-on-one, but just the systems are so complex and so difficult to, break into, that having someone that's gone through these processes, that a job seeker or job advancer can see themselves and relate to that person is really important. And another comment that came up was just needing an actual facilitated process for people to navigate the resources, and then staffing to support that facilitation.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Thank you, Anna and Anna's group.
I'll share a couple of things. Oh,
go ahead.
Okay. We also noticed that, titles can really differ based on the system that you're applying for. So actually just having a list of the titles, because you might not even know which ones which job posts you can apply for, would be useful. Also differentiating, the credential you need to finish versus the certification. Those are different. Fees associated with certification might be useful to have. And also, like, similar to the mentorship, actual testimonies sort of accompanying this tool from people who, seeing a day in the life in these positions would be really helpful. We talked about several other things too, but I'll stop there.
Awesome. Thanks, April.
So really interesting to me how similar but also different it seems all of our breakout group discussions were. So one of the things our group talked about, kind of similar to seeing the different job titles, is really just making sure that there's a tool that's useful for both internal employees looking to upskill as well as external job applicants who may be just interested in entering the healthcare field. Also talked about what accessibility really means in terms of how people understand their current job and what that long-term career trajectory looks like. So having a tool that lets you know what the hard requirements are, but also gives you a better idea of some of those soft skill requirements that are requirements, but might not be as obvious for a job seeker to be able to understand when reading, a job description or even a specific posting. Those things might be less clear. So having an understanding for candidates to be that. Also for candidates to be able to see not only what the next job option looks like for them, but what some potential longer term options look like so that they can make a more critically informed decision about what their next steps are. Another one that I think was really important was transferable skills. So not just these hard requirements, but when people are making decisions, if they possess XYZ skills here, what might be interesting or a natural next step for them to transition to based off of similar skills. And then the last part, which I think is really interesting, especially when compared with kind of that coaching and mentoring conversation that you brought up, Anna, was kind of the opposite pivot my team talked about, is how do we leverage technology and AI to make this a really useful tool for folks? So thinking about, is there a way that someone could upload and scan their resume to kind of get feedback on what might be a good fit? Maybe even receive feedback on how to improve that resume. Can we incorporate some type of interest or skills assessment to help guide this user and help them narrow down the jobs without having them need to kind of search through those keywords and the different filters themselves? How can we help use technology to kind of help narrow things down for them? And then looking at a fit from there. So that would kind of sum up the main points from our group.
So awesome. Thank you, Ashley's group. Thank you, everyone. My brain just started splintering into a couple of different voices of how the usability of such a tool could be, and just a lot of great ideas. We'll be back in future meetings, future quarterlies with developments on this. So thank you so much. I'll turn it back to April.
I'm so excited. This was such a great conversation. Sasha and I have tons of work to do on this tool, but I'm really excited about it. And you'll definitely be hearing more about it as we hone it. A couple of partner opportunities I'm just going to leave on the screen. I put links in the chat. With the last minute, does anyone have a community announcement they'd like to share with the group? Just go ahead and come off mute.
This is Marcos. We're the Corporate Coalition, along with the Chicago Workforce Funder Alliance, along with other organizations. We're hosting a Workforce Innovation Symposium on September 28th. I'll drop the link in the chat if folks are interested in attending.
Ooh, that sounds great. I'll put it in the newsletter too. Anyone else? Awesome. Thank you all for such a wonderful meeting. Thank you to Sasha, to Liana, to Bridget, to Ashley and Anna for helping out and presenting. And everyone have a fantastic day. Enjoy fall. See you on December something. I'll put it in the newsletter.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.